Welcome to the Dental Decoders podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Rogars, and I'm here to help you crack the code on all things dental operations. Each week, we dive into topics to help you overcome roadblocks, streamline operations, and reduce team burnout. Whether you're an owner, a practice manager, or a team member, this podcast is for you. Join us for insightful discussions, engaging interviews, and practical tips. So sit back and relax as we crack the code on all things dental operations together.
Good afternoon to our listeners. Here we are on our Dental Decoders podcast. We're so glad to have you here today, as well as our amazing guest, Ashlee Hirschfeld, with us from the Dental Success Companies. We're so glad you're with us, and we feel truly honored to have you here with us today. So welcome, Ashlee.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you, ladies.
Great to see you too.
Welcome.
So to start us off, Ashlee, in case we have some listeners that aren't familiar with Dental Success Companies or with yourself, tell us a little bit about yourself, tell us a little bit about Dental Success Companies, and what you've been up to recently.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so Dental Success Companies, we use that umbrella for all things that were founded by Dr. Mark Costas. I've been working for him in some capacity in the last 12 years. I started as his personal assistant 12 years ago, and now my role is COO at Dental Success Network specifically, but I work with the Dental Success Companies as a whole as well. And so, Dental Success Network is an online platform for dentists specifically. We provide a community for them to get peer-to-peer coaching, vendor discounts, continuing education, and then we also just launched our Talkspace initiative where we're providing mental health support for them as well. In the last 12 years, I've also gotten the unofficial/official title of GSD Queen because I get stuff done. Or, I use the other word sometimes, but I don't know how PG our show is here. So we'll be.
She means shit, guys.
I get shit done.
Okay.
So I started my own little side gig too, where I'm helping people, mostly dental offices, but not always dental offices, find the right personal executive or administrative assistant. So that's a 15-second overview of Ashlee.
I love that. And I love hearing that you're helping the dentists, particularly because I know a lot of them could use someone that's not their office manager or their administrator in their practice, who can kind of step in and help them with some tasks that they just can't seem to get done because they're the provider for their practice. They're the dentist. They have to take care of their patients. And so I love that you're helping them find the right person to step in and help. So can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, of course. So that's where, again, I started as Mark's personal assistant 12 years ago, and I watched as he was building his dental practice groups. And, he has the nickname, the Dentalpreneur, because he is always starting some type of business as well. So he was always doing something, and I stepped in to start helping as a part-time assistant. And then as he got more comfortable delegating, which was something we had to work on and build that skill with him, then he, got more and more comfortable delegating things, which gave him more capacity to grow the dental practice, to grow his businesses, to spend more time with his family. And so, flash forward 12 years where I watched, I lived that and I helped him. And I'm like, man, more dentists, practice owners, even office managers sometimes. We find the right assistant to help within a practice, and they'll help the owner as well as the office manager. We will find the right assistant to help there as well, just to take things off their plate, little things like making sure presents are bought for team anniversaries, or setting up the team events, or going to get logos embroidered on the scrubs, that type of thing. These little things that can kind of bog down a day. But if you have someone you can, be your right hand and constantly delegate things to, it makes things within the practice, within everyone's lives, run a lot smoother sometimes.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
I'd like a personal assistant at home. Can you make that arrangement for me? Because I'd really like that too.
Sure.
Right, you want one at home? I want one at home.
My VA started this week, and I'm thinking that I need like an in-person person now too, because today I was 15 minutes late to pick my kids up from daycare. My VA can't help me with that.
Totally get that. Totally get that.
And she'll hook you up with an executive for you at home. There you go.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about your personal assistant program and what that process looks like. I want to dig into that piece a little bit because I want to know more.
Yeah, no, I love to share it. Yeah, so I break them down into personal, admin, and executive assistants. Personal assistant is kind of what you ladies just mentioned, somebody who's maybe at your house helping to organize things, seeing noticing when groceries are getting low and starting that Instacart order, getting that set up for you, kind of more personal tasks, managing personal schedule. Admin assistant might be someone who's helping with those little tasks at the office. Maybe they're doing document creation, sending out, cards to your patients that are like, happy birthday, that type of thing, customized stuff. An executive assistant, I like to say, is a blend of both of those things, but kind of at an elevated level. So especially, these entrepreneurial type doctors who have more than one business, this person may have access to tax documents. And if you're applying for a loan and, the bank needs you to get A through Z to them to get this loan, the executive assistant is going to have access to bank accounts and information that is a little more sensitive, a little higher level that, maybe your personal or admin assistant might not have access to. So with my program, what I do is we go through, I want to hear about, what does the week of Brittany or Rebecca look like? Tell me, what your schedule's like and where you feel like you're needing the most help. And then we kind of decide what bucket that fits into out of these three. And the cool thing is they can be blended too. Personal and admin is also very common. Hybrid, this can be in person, this can be remote, this can be a blend of both. Like you mentioned, Brittany, you have a VA, so you have someone who's working purely remotely. That's awesome too. Talk about exactly what would be a good fit for you. We craft the ad, and then I have an assistant, shout out Kelly, and she places the ad. And then from there, we start to review candidates. And kind of the secret sauce a little bit is as we're reviewing these candidates, we also put them through skills and personality assessments. And the personality assessments are 100%, but the skills assessment is so key. And even if you're not using me, I recommend in any position you do some type of skills assessment when hiring, because it just saves so much time. Like I may have a resume that says that, they're an admin assistant of 15 years, but if I give them my skills assessment and they can't use, Google Drive or PowerPoint or whatever it is, like I just don't waste my time. I brought in an assistant one time. Sorry, I'm going so fast now. My coffee's kicked in. I brought in an assistant one time and I was like, okay, can you send me blah, blah, blah. And she goes, how do I attach something to an email? And I was like, thank you for your time. I can't. And so I was like, I will never do that again. And I created the skills test. So then we're, presenting a few options to these docs to make a selection of the ones that are passing, and kicking butt. Oh, they also do a 15-minute interview with me. I think I've interviewed over 600 people at this point. So
wow.
Yeah, a lot of people I've interviewed. And then, so the doctors will make a selection who they want to meet with face-to-face. And then, make their selection. Once they make their selection to the doctor and this assistant have access to me for 4 weeks. For resources, training, I give them all kinds of, resources on how to be a good assistant, especially within a dental office, because it's kind of niche. An executive assistant in a dental office is a little bit niche, and that's what my background's in. So I try and give these assistants as many tools to be successful as possible. So that's
amazing.
Wow. There it is.
That was a perfect way to end that.
Okay, that's the end of the podcast right there.
So,
go ahead, Brittany.
Sorry. So one of the fun things about having a podcast with two hosts is we both get really excited and we talk over each other. So we try not to overwhelm you with questions. But I want to ask specifically for a doctor or an office manager who's hearing this right now and they're like, this sounds interesting, but also they're of that mindset that we talked about kind of before we started recording, where it's like faster just to do it myself. It's faster just to not delegate and pass these things off. What are some delegation tips that we could pass along for our listeners so they could start working on that skill before they bring in that assistant?
That's a really great question. The first step is it's kind of like anything. It's like any habit, any skill that you build, like just give it a shot first. Like just try it first. Because, sometimes that's the biggest thing. Like I'll just do it myself. But if you dedicate yourself to being like, listen, I'm going to try this. I'm going to give this delegation thing a shot. Like just commit, and pick some relatively easy stuff, something that doesn't feel too overwhelming for you to delegate. Maybe it's the running of the errands, maybe it's a little document creation, and then just kind of start to, it's going to depend on the person you're working with too, as if that person needs to build trust and show you that they can handle more as well. And in my situation, if I've done a good job hiring, that's usually easy thing there. But it's just about, giving them a little bit more and a little bit more and kind of, it's okay to dip your toe in. One of the things we tell people too is if you're considering an assistant is start to make a list of things that you are sucking up your time, things that you absolutely hate doing, and things you just maybe aren't good at. Maybe I've seen, dentists who are doing like their marketing. Oh, balloons. They're doing their marketing.
I've never seen that before.
That's an iPad thing, I think, and I don't have that setting turned off. But maybe they're creating their ads for marketing and that type of thing. Like, that's not necessarily your best use of time and something that you're good at. You might have an assistant who's much more creative at it. So give the person a shot. Allow yourself to kind of dip your toe in, I guess I would say is the first step. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay,
Well, it does, right? Like you said, I don't think that anyone looks at their list of things to do and says, here's 10 things. Hey, person over here, do all these 10 things, right?
You're not
I think it's a slow, what was that? What?
I said you're not supposed to do that.
You can, but if it's something where, I think those people that have a really hard time delegating are the people that are going to have a really hard time giving it up. And so I like Ashlee's suggestion in the fact of, try something small, something little. It's baby steps when you're someone like myself who has a really hard time letting other people do something because you have OCD. Okay, it's okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah.
People have ADHD and I have OCD. It's fine. But you just feel better when you do it yourself. And so I like that idea of, just give them one or two things that are little, but also I like the idea of giving them the things that you don't like doing at all. They probably might like it. And it might be something they enjoy doing. And it's a win-win, I guess. So
I think I'm ADD and OCD, so that's like another whole other problem. Yeah, yikes is right. So one of the sayings I embrace as I'm starting to work with a new assistant or recommending someone learn to use an assistant is done is better than perfect. Allow them a shot first, because then you can go back and edit. Like 99% of the time, anything you're delegating we're not delegating curing cancer. We're not delegating sending someone to the moon. It's not the end of the world if it's a little off. And at least then it gives you an opportunity to correct and be like, hey, I'd really appreciate it if maybe next time, we format it this way or use Google Sheets instead of a document. Allow them to take a stab at it first. So then that can allow you to come back and edit. But if you do have capacity to take a minute and come up with some clear instructions. And written is really hard. I don't like to type out written instructions. It takes a long time. If I can do a screen recording on my computer and talk over and show someone real quick, I am a big fan of that. I mean, I know most computers these days have some type of screen recording function. So you were going to do the task anyway, so record yourself doing it and talk about doing it. And then boom. I mean, I know, Brittany, you're always doing trainings on open dental and that type of thing. Both of you are doing trainings, and not to minimize Rebecca, all the things you have going on, Rebecca.
All right.
Pro tip for writing, if you've got someone who is like a written person, not a screen recording type of person, when I do my screen record, I also take a Scribe. I have a program called Scribe, and it records all my button clicks and turns it into words. So that's been a game changer for me. I use the heck out of that. And so anybody listening who's trying to write SOPs, check out Scribe. It's another great tool to have in your tool belt other than the screen recording thing. And I'm a video learner, so I'm all about having the actual videos where I can click by click. So I love that. But I've found that maybe not everybody learns like me. So Scribe has been helpful.
That's awesome. I'm definitely going to check that out. It's funny I say that because I am actually a reading learner, but I don't like to write it all out. Like, I would prefer to not give the instruction that way, but I would prefer to someone to give me that. So I'm taking note of that. Thank you, Brittany.
Yeah, awesome.
Personally, I just want someone to do it for me that knows how to do it and be able to read my mind. So let me know when that happens.
Too, actually.
That's the problem. Time out. No. That's the biggest. I love that you mentioned it, but that's the biggest issue I have is, when I hire someone and they were like, well, they didn't do this. I'm like, well, did you clearly explain? Did you give them a chance? Well, they should just know.
No, right? Well, isn't it there the Amelia Bedelia books or something like that?
I feel like we maybe sat through a keynote about this once upon a time.
Was it you, Brittany? Was it you? Okay, that's what I thought. I didn't want to say that on the recording though, but yeah, like where it's like you make that reference right to those books, and it's like, well, she did what it said, right? But anyway, but it's the same way, right? Because it's like I know what I want, and that's where it's like I just want to like, okay,
Totally.
This is what I want. This is how I want it done. I want the colors here, and I want this there, and da, 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 and if I could just literally put it in a recording. And then can you read my mind at the same time? Can you see the picture I was drawing in my head? That would be fantastic. Find me one of those, Ashlee. When you find one of those, send them on over to me.
Noted.
No pressure.
I will say we're using ChatGPT a ton more for similar type situations. It's not like gonna read their mind, but for example, with Mark, we have a ton of transcripts of his talks and of podcasts and that type of thing. And we've created a ChatGPT bot that sounds like Mark, and we can use that as our marketing people come up with copy so that and he's still approving it. He's still taking a look at it. It's not, but the amount of time it saves in that it knows, his style and the way he would say things and the terms we use in the dental success world. We have go-to kind of key phrases we've been using for over a decade now. And it's a really, really cool feature. And I freaking love ChatGPT so much.
Let me just tell you, after we were together last, and you told me that I could build out all these bots and I had been doing it the hard way, I need to get a metric so I can tell you how much. But it's got to be over 100% efficiency that we've approved around these parts because I've got ChatGPT doing so much now. So when you can't have a VA or an assistant in person, I mean, you leverage the tools you have to help you delegate too. I literally just today was telling my team, like, ChatGPT is not replacing our team members by any means, but they are immensely expanding our workload and our potential of things that we can accomplish because we don't have to spend so much time doing the things. So
totally,
this is me thanking you for that amazing tip because it's been incredible.
I'm so glad you use it. So glad.
I think it's super exciting for me to have conversations like these with people that we actually have somewhat of a relationship and a background with because I've really, really, really enjoyed this conversation. It's felt very organic and natural. And I know that our listeners are going to appreciate it as well. So if they want to learn more about you and continue this conversation after the episode ends, where can they find you?
Yeah, so a couple of places. I've been there since the beginning. So if you aren't a member and you're a dentist, join dentalsuccessnetwork.com. Big fan of that, obviously. If you are interested in, finding some type of assistant, you can also visit my website, which is gsdqueen.co. So gsdqueen.co, not com. Because there's a German Shepherd owner who owns gsdqueen.com, and I am not the German Shepherd. You were not looking for puppies here. It's gsdqueen.co, and shoot me a message, or you can contact me there. My phone number and my email is on the website too.
And we will link that all in the show notes. Bex, you got any more final questions before I ask the big signature question?
Well, I feel like I could pick Ashlee's brain with like so many things, but we might just have to have her back again.
Happy to. I would love to see you ladies.
Yes.
All right, Ashlee. So we end every single episode of the show with our signature question, which is, in your life, what has been your decoding moment or your secret code that has allowed you to be successful?
Ooh, great question. I think realizing that another phrase I use all the time, and I'm teaching my assistants or anyone I work with, is there's always a solution. And kind of embracing that instead of freaking out about roadblocks is, taking a pause. And trust me, I freaked out about many a roadblock. But once I realized, you listen, there's always a solution, and it might not look like what I thought it was going to look like. And, whether it's in work or my personal life, that seems to be playing out pretty well. I'm pretty stoked with where we are at the moment. So there's always a solution. And if you're ever afraid or overwhelmed, just take a pause and just know there's always a solution.
Great advice. Great advice.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on the show and taking some time out of your busy day to chat with us. This has been wonderful. I am 100% going to be inviting you back for a part 2. I'm sure Rebecca agrees that this has been not one of our most fun conversations, all our past guests, but like one of our most fun conversations. Thanks so much, Ashlee.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you so much for joining us for this week's episode of Dental Decoders podcast. We hope you took away a valuable piece of information. As always, don't forget to rate, share, and subscribe to help us build our community of dental decoders. We look forward to seeing you for next week's episode.